Good morning, everybody. Roll Tide. This is Veronica from Heavy Metal Mamas, and I have been working on something to share with you guys. Since Patricia's going to be having her veins worked on and is going to be down, this is something that I thought we would come up with, something different. I hope you guys like it. But I've, for years now, been working on my ancestry, and most people's family came to America from Europe as indentured servants, and I'm proud to say that my family came to America in 1643 as mariners, seamen, and they my grandfather's name was Henry Bleeden. He was Welsh, and I'm doing this is my 22nd great grandaunt, Gwyneth, and she was a princess, and she fought for what she believed in, and I believe that's where I get it from. If I believe in something wholeheartedly, I will fight for it. And sadly to say, her belief, her willingness to fight for her country brought forth her death. But I am proud to say that she was a fighter and fought for what she believed in, and I'm going to share that with you guys. So I hope you enjoy it. I'm very proud of it, and we'll see how it goes. I might change it up. I'm not sure if I like how this one was done, but you guys let me know what you think. We love you, and we'll see you on the next one.
Princess Gwyneth was the youngest daughter and child of Griffith ap Cynan. She was born in 1055 until 1137. King of Gwynedd and his wife Angred, born at the family seat of Aberfraw. She had 4 older sisters and 3 older brothers. She was said to be beautiful with long, flame red hair. After the French-Norman invasion led by William the Conqueror in 1066, turmoil had been unleashed across the kingdom. The Welsh lords had lost many of their lands and possessions to the Normans, who built impressive fortifications and castles in Aberystwyth, Cardigan, Carmarthen, Pembroke, and Cadwally. These castles stood on land that had once belonged to the kingdom of Deheubarth. It was in this environment of repression, rebellion, and Welsh patriotism that she was raised. Even though physically striking, she was no wilting violet, having been taught how to use the sword by her father. Gwyneth was about 13 years old when she first met the love of her life, Griffith of Rhys, Prince of Deheubarth. He had received a warm welcome from her elderly father and promptly fell in love with his spirited daughter, Gwyneth. The couple eloped to Griffith's castle home in Donfar, in the Tywee Valley, Deheubarth. They had 4 sons, Morgan, Malgwyn, and Marauded, and Rhys. Gwyneth and Griffith were a kind of medieval version of Robin Hood and Maid Marian, making daring raids on the Normans in Deheubarth, redistributing their goods and wealth among the local Welsh population. Their raids would surely have been an annoyance to the Normans, but no significant turning point came until 1136. Shortly after the passing of Henry I, the Norman King of England, his death had created a power struggle between his nephew Stephen of Blois and his daughter, the Empress Matilda, in a civil war known as the Anarchy. A revolt began in South Wales, where a Welsh army led by Hywel ap Moreden, Lord of Brycheiniog, defeated Maurice de Lourdes at Larcher near Swansea. The Norman lord fled back to Cadwalley Castle. Sensing the Normans were on the run, Gruffudd and Gwynlyn made the fateful decision for Gwynlyn to ride north with his men to gather support and the forces of her father based in Gwynedd in the north. An army of that size would have been able to drive the Normans out of Deharbeth. With her husband and the majority of his men away, Gwynlyn and her sons were left vulnerable. In the early hours of the 28th of February, 1136, Gwynlyn received news that the Normans were amassing an army at Cadwalley Castle, likely aware that Gruffudd and his men were away. Gwynlyn had already decided to fight should the need arise, and after making sure her working men from the Tywee Valley left their labors to join Gwynlyn in defense of their lands. Maybe she said something like, "Men of Deharbeth, will you join me in battle? I am the daughter of a king, but you are the sons of Wales. This is your land, and the Normans have already stolen much of our birthright. Shall we let them steal even more?" Gwynlyn, the warrior princess, led her army consisting of her 2 eldest sons and around 200 ill-equipped local men, and by the afternoon they had reached Cadwalley Castle. The short winter daylight hours meant they had no camp nearby. She decided on 2 strategies, namely lightning raids, which she had organized before with her husband, while waiting for his return to launch a major offensive. She split her troops in half. One group to remain with her at their camp in the woodland to the north of the castle, intent on cutting off supplies to Maurice de Lourdes in the castle, while the other group, headed by a local chieftain, took men by boat to stop the Normans landing on the coast. This may well have worked, had it not been for the traitor in her midst. Gwynlyn was betrayed by no less than her chieftain, Gruffudd ap Llywelyn, who, instead of cutting off the coastal landings as instructed, met with Maurice de Lourdes and gave away Gwynlyn's position. She had lost the element of surprise and was the victim of a surprise attack herself, as Gruffudd ap Llywelyn and the Normans descended from Cadwalley Castle along the banks of Grendroth Fock, their banners fluttering in the wind. Soon they had surrounded Gwynlyn's camp. A fierce battle ensued, with archers and daggermen, and eventually Gwynlyn was felled from her horse. Her eldest son Morgan was killed trying to protect her, and Maelgwn was made to watch as his injured but defiant mother was captured. The cruel Norman lord Maurice de Lourdes, who instead of acting in a chivalrous manner towards a woman captive, which was the etiquette of the time, decided she should be executed. Poor Gwynlyn was spared being burned at the stake, but was beheaded there and then on the battlefield. A gruesome but quick death. It is said that a spring welled up in the place where she died, fighting to the end for Welsh freedom. When her husband, Gruffydd ap Rhys, and her brothers, Owen and Cadwaladr, heard that Gwynchen and her 2 sons had perished at the hands of the Normans, they were filled with grief and vowed revenge. Her death was the catalyst for the Great Revolt in 1136. The furious Welshmen attacked the castles of North Ceredigion, slaughtering the Normans there. They had a further victory at Cardigan in 1136, but Gruffydd ap Rhys died only a year after his wife. Of their 4 sons, only the youngest, Rhys ap Gruffydd, lived to old age. There is a touching monument to Princess Gwynchen at Sidwelley Castle, and stories abound of her headless ghost roaming the field where she was so mercilessly slain. For centuries after her death, Welshmen used the battle cry, "Revenge for Gwynchen!" For decades after her death, the Welsh and the Normans battled over castles and territories, but eventually her youngest son, Rhys ap Gruffydd, the Lord Rhys, became the greatest Welsh lord of his time. He regained many of the lands his family had lost in Deheubarth and won others to boot. In 1159, he retook Cadwalley Castle from the Normans, avenging his mother's murder. He rebuilt the fortress in 1190 and held it until his death in 1197. Rhys also claimed Cardigan Castle, where in 1176 he founded the first Welsh Eisteddfod. Thus was started a festival tradition that continues to this day. Singers and musicians have performed for centuries, long after the court poets, harpists, and bards of Lord Rhys' era. The title of Prince of Wales may well have been used by the Lord Rhys. He must have been a man of vigor, as he was known to have fathered at least 9 sons and 8 daughters. There was a bitter feud between his eldest legitimate son, Gruffydd ap Rhys II, and his eldest illegitimate son, Morgan ap Rhys. 2 of his daughters were named Gwynchen after his legendary mother, but the youngest Gwynchen married Enilfed Fwychen, Seneschal of Gwynedd under Llewellyn the Great, and through her offspring, her grandmother, Gwynchen Gruffydd, became an ancestor of the Tudor dynasty. Through the Tudors intermarrying with the House of Stuart, Gwynchen is an ancestor to the House of Windsor and also an ancestor of several ruling houses in Europe. When Henry Tudor landed in Pembrokeshire, Wales in 1485 to make a bid for the English throne, his descent from the Lord Rhys